Vivek, one of the things which probably would be good to discuss is on how an individual can really build a design brief. So once I know this is the architect I'm going to work with, I think the next step for me is to go and say that, okay, this is what I need in my building. Because most of the time, as individuals, there is always a complexity around what is required as we move. So if you categorize as domestic and houses, which are completely different from our public buildings, which are completely different from commercial buildings, which have a completely different angle to it. So I think building a design brief, guess, is an important aspect on the first step when we start to engage with an architect.
I think so. Like most of our energy as a designer or architect goes into getting our client to tune up for having more clarity on his requirement. I think, and that's very crucial and important for any project success. I think so. Definitely, we can also help our clients or layman who wants to build any type of building to have more clarity.
So primarily, I guess if somebody wants to build a house, I think it starts from basically the lifestyle itself. So what sort of lifestyle we are used to? Are we in for a change in our lifestyle? The other day we were discussing about generations living together. What do you think
Yeah,
about it?
present scenario is so fast paced life and it is changing very rapidly. If you see, like let's 25 years back, people used to think of three generations whenever they want to build a house. But now in my own lifetime, I may demolish one house and build another. That's the pace which is changing very fast.
Absolutely,
So we
absolutely.
have to consider that pace also. Naturally also as architect we always consider the different criterias like the occupational background, socio-economic background, religious background of a client. But clients also needs to have more clarity on what kind of lifestyle he would want to live, what kind of storage requirements particularly is changing very fast. Because of lifestyle changing, the storage requirements changing. So based on these criteria, I think our client should have more clarity on his requirements.
So fundamentally, of course, houses are something different. Then again, public buildings may be completely different. There may be standard type of requirements. Special needs building may be completely different. So would it be good for us to kind of assume that it would be good to do a preliminary work for a person who wants to build a house or a building to build their requirements and then sit with the architect and then start to work on really coming out, because probably, do you think an architect can contribute in the building up of the requirements also?
Of course, yeah. Like I think I may suggest few rounds, like 2 3 rounds with the client to work out and have more clarity on the requirements rather jumping on to doing some sketches.
Yeah, primarily if somebody is a commercial developer who wants to build buildings for purposes from a commercial point of view, maybe architect's experience would count a lot, and he may be having more clarity on how that sector works based on the experience he would have done earlier, rather than this person who's actually into the business, getting into the
Yes,
business.
very true.
An important aspect as a design brief is built is also, I guess, understanding the styles. What is the style exactly which we are looking for in the type of building which we want to build.
Yeah, in terms of the overall look and feel, architecture style, and that will also drive to work out minor, smaller details like window jambs, cladding, those kind of things. It will be helpful for a designer to derive those kind of details also for the building.
Yeah, and I guess also having a conversation with the architect to understand the style. For example, I am planting a completely a European style of an architectural building into probably a very Indian sort of a setting. How much it kind of, what to say, gets into the built environment there is, it the suitability of that style. I don't you think this is something which is a part of the design brief and could be built over a conversation?
Yeah, I may put it this way also, like whether the client would love to have minimalism in the style of architecture or would want to have a little bit expression of the lineage, background, or the culture we have. So if we have more clarity, it is good in the beginning to have, because our design thought process can get aligned while parallelly understanding the physical requirements also.
So I guess lastly, also within the design brief sits the whole investment and budget, because most of the time this is the area of friction or tension between the client and the architect. So I guess it's extremely important to really have this clear from the beginning on the scale of investment and the budget which is required in what aspect of the building.
And if you have clear idea which portion of the budget to spend on what, like let's say like if we spend, there is a limitation to have more flexibility on the warm shell, which is a basic structure, because standard the most practice structures are RCC frame structure. But if you go on some innovation, we may save on that, but we can have clarity on prioritizing the different stages of project, on which stage we want to spend how much money. That will really guide both the people to have a smooth journey throughout.
Yeah, absolutely. I think again you're touching on a very important point here on the chunks of budget and where it needs to be applied. So how much of it goes into the core structure, how much goes into the technology and the building management aspect of it and the services aspect of it, how much of it actually is okay for the aesthetic and the innovative aspect of it.
Because you see, like if you take floor, which is one very important expense in the whole project, it can start from 15 rupees per square feet to 1500 rupees a square feet. And even labor also can cost, there is a big range of labor depending on
Where the project is
where the
situated.
project and how much detailing input is there in the project. So if we have pre-work priorities, then it can go smooth.
So while the physical requirement is being built or listed out based on the type of the building, like maybe a number of bedrooms in a house or X number of classrooms in an institutional building, or this is the office space and these are the shops in a mall. So this is definitely going to be determined by the size of the building and those sort of stuff. So I think it's an important aspect to really dig into detail on the physical requirement, no doubt about it.
Yes.
But don't you think that the scope of innovation and aesthetics should be a very integral part of the design brief per se?
Yeah, of course. In today's scenario, when there is um, too much of a emphasis on utilizing every square inch, this is a missing factor. I personally and strongly feel as a designer and architect, we don't consider empty spaces to come in between the physical requirements to enhance the uh, atmosphere from the aspect of feel factor, ambience, aesthetics, creativity, things like that.
So as an individual, if I'm going to build my say a house or an institution or whatever, it is important for me to kind of be very clear the dynamic and the scope of how much I'm going to have this freedom with the architect on innovation and aesthetics, where I have to say that no, this is something is set for me. Don't try to innovate here. This is how I need, and probably these are the areas you're completely free to kind of just freak out and get your design and creativity juices flow out.
Yeah, exactly. For certain areas where there is no scope or like per se no, we can identify those things, and other things maybe organically also it can happen depending on the fine tuning with architect and clients.
Yeah, because I guess it is also important for an individual to understand that the architect is always on this cusp and this urge to get his creative instincts in all the projects what he needs, and getting the right balance is extremely important so that the project gets the desired justice.
Yeah, so if fundamentally, if both the parties have the project as a priority than the design ego or self ego, then this may happen organically, naturally also.